Very good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to each one of you. You are now tuned in to the second episode of our webinar series under the flagship program called the Health Unlock Show, where we explore the real, often hidden science behind your health. In our last session, we dove deep into gut health and its surprising links to the overall wellness. Today, we are moving further inward to the level of your genes as we uncover the powerful connection between diabetes and your DNA. Whether you're joining us again or are here for the very first time, we're so glad that you are here with us. At Unlock.fit, we believe your health journey should start with understanding who you are at your core, your DNA, your biomarkers, and your unique blueprint. We are we Unlock.fit are here to redefine what personalized wellness looks like by integrating cutting-edge genomic science, advanced biomarker testing, and deep health insights. We deliver solutions that are tailored, impactful, and empowering. Our mission is simple: to help you take charge of your health with precision and confidence. And guiding us through today's session is someone who lives and breathes this science every single day. Tableen Kaur. She's a certified nutrigenomics counselor with dual master's degrees in genetics and genomics and nutrigenomics. With a deep belief that real change begins at the core of who we are, Tableen combines cutting edge genetic science with compassionate care to help individuals understand their health from inside out. In this session, she'll help you uncover how your DNA can hold powerful clues to your risk of diabetes and how personalized root cause care can make all the difference in prevention and long-term management of diabetes. With this, I would like to hand over the mic to our speaker Tavleen. Take it away, Tavleen. Thanks.
Hi, hello everyone. I hope I am audible and my screen is visible. Again, starting with the webinar, let's just first understand that what as Unlock.fit we do, right? So we are leading the shift from generic diets to personalized genetic nutrition, right? Understanding what is the need of personalization in any area in terms of non-communicable diseases, right? Today we'll be talking about diabetes, but apart from that, right, consider your cardiovascular diseases or your fatty liver, etc. All the non communicable diseases require this shift, and that is what we are helping you understand today, right? How do we ensure that we are having this shift is through nutrigenomic testing, right? So what is your nutrigenomic testing? Your DNA is like a personal manual, right? So it's like a blueprint of your entire body, right? So personal manual to your body, and nutrigenomics helps you read that manual to guide your health related decisions, right? So if whether you have risk for diabetes, whether you have risk for cardiovascular disease, do you metabolize your nutrients well or not, is something that we'll understand through this nutrigenomic testings, right? So again, coming back to the same question that we started with, that what is the need for personalization, right? What does personalization actually mean, right? Okay. I'm going to start with a story. This is the story of our client, Miss X, right? She was a 45-year-old female. She complained about having frequent headaches, fatigue, pain in lower limbs, right? So these were the common complaints that we had from her side. She got a blood test done, right? Her biomarkers that we analyzed were vitamin D, thyroid, CRP levels, right? All of them supposed to fit in the normal range, right? As all of you can see that the traditional range for vitamin D is 20 to 50, and she was fitting in the right range somewhere between 25, right? Thyroid being zero point 0.4 to 4.5, she was 3.8, again in the traditional ranges. And CRP levels 0 to 3, she was standing at 2.5, ensuring that she was completely in the range, right? So my point is that despite of all her values being in the range, why was she still not feeling well? And then in such cases, what do we do, right? So understand that personalization helps you identify your normal, right? What does that mean? The range that we use in traditional medicine are broad. They're designed for masses, right? And it is not the optimal range for you. Because understand, anybody who's from standing at 20 to 50, right, that is such a broad range, right? You cannot be normal. Everybody between that range is something that is not considered as normal. Why do we say so? Because first of all the thresholds, right, that are identified in terms of blood testing, right, they come from people who are unhealthy first, right? Secondly, it's such a huge population, right? So the lowest and the highest is decided by that. Now, here, if you see the red dot, identifying that is not very easy, right? Because you're coming in such a broad range, right? Everybody appears normal here. Versus when you ensure that you keep your blood tests, your blood tests are done in regular intervals annually, and then, you identify your own baseline value, right? So after you do that, slight deviation also above or below your baseline value is something which is easily detectable, right? So here you can identify that you are not coming in the normal range, your values are getting deranged, and then you have to take actions, right? So again, moving ahead, what we did that answering the question that why is she still not feeling well, it was answered in her personalized functional biomarker values, right? For vitamin D, we ensured we understood her genetics, we understood her age, what is the current lifestyle, and all of these factors that really mattered. We had a proper, complete consultation on that and derived out the personalized ranges for her. Vitamin D, her personalized ranges come from 40 to 60. Right now, you can clearly identify that 25 is something which is completely below. Right, vitamin D is something which is essentially required. Vitamin D deficiency can, let alone help you manifest diabetes. So understand that once you had these personalized ranges from 40 to 60, you were clearly able to identify that 25 is something which is ensuring that she's deficient in vitamin D, and that needs to be fixed. Thyroid levels as well, you'll see that this is above the personalized age. Depending on her age, depending on her genetics and the current lifestyle that she's leading, she had higher levels of thyroid, right? And along with that, CRP, again, inflammation was observed in our body, and inflammation is one of the major root causes for all the non-communicable diseases to be manifested, right? This was the highlight we had identified, which helped us identify that she was deficient in vitamin D, her thyroid levels were elevated, and her hsCRP levels were also elevated depending on her personalized range values, right? This is where you understand that need of personalization is something which is very important in order to understand that something is going wrong with your body at the right time, right? Again, in terms of genetics, if we talk about, we have these four offerings in our DNA report, right? We can understand how your diet should look like, whether you metabolize certain nutrients really well or not, whether do you have carbohydrate sensitivity, etc. How does your weight management look like? Do you have FTO metabolism, which is something which is helping you store fat? Is it mutated? Then you have your fitness, and you also consider your detox, right? So it contains the code that determines how you process food and how your body handles nutrients, right? And how likely you tolerate you can tolerate certain substances, be that be lactose or gluten, right? So this is what a DNA report will help you understand. As we spoke about hsCRP levels, it is one of the major indicators for most of the non-communicable diseases, right? HsCRP level is nothing but an indication in terms of the inflammation that body is having. Your gluten and your lactose intolerances can also cause inflammation, which can also cause poor gut health and leading to manifestation of all the non-communicable diseases, right? DNA test is the only confirmatory test for lactose and gluten intolerances, right? Moving ahead, so this is a sample page of what our report looks like. Nutrigenomics help you read the manual to reveal the actionable insights, right? And the shift is just about the food, right? So it's not just about the food, it's aligning your health choices with how your body naturally is designed to function, right? So I always say that syncing is something which is very important. You have to ensure that your biological self is synced with the environment that you're living in, right? Only then there is a effortless movement, and then there's no problem in terms of all the diseases that you face, right? So that syncing is something which is completely very important. Moving ahead, let's understand how DNA can help you in terms of diabetes, right? So what a general approach would look like in terms of diabetes versus what a nutrigenomics approach look like in terms of diabetes, right? Anybody who has higher fasting blood glucose levels get an HbA1c test, which is the standard test, right? It is the gold standard test. You understand that you are either coming in the pre-diabetic range or in the diabetic range. You probably visit a doctor. Doctor would either ask you to make lifestyle modifications, which we are not really clear about. They do not have proper, precise, actionable pointers. Secondly, they'll ask you to get on medications, right? So there are three basic medications that are initially available. That is metformin, you have sulfonylureas, and then you have SGL2 inhibitors, right? All of them you see here that it is either helping you reduce the production of glucose, or it is helping you secrete more insulin, or it is helping you with enhanced glucose excretion out of the body, right? So all of them are helping you manage the symptoms. Is glucose and insulin the only problem in diabetes? Is what we will understand through further nutrigenomics report, right? Now, when you do that, when you start taking these medications and slightly take care of your lifestyle balancing as well, right? So you take care of your lifestyle choices, but you're also on medication. What medication does is basically it lowers your B12 levels, right? So I'm sure that most of the times you must have seen people who had diabetes manifest cardiovascular disease, or had hypertension and they manifest your diabetes, right? So you enter this never ending cycle, right? Because you're not treating the root cause. As you can see that NIH, right? So if you have low levels of B12, cardiovascular disease and diabetes is a risk factor, right? So B12 levels which are low in your body can be a risk factor in terms of manifesting diabetes and cardiovascular disease, right? You'll also see that long-term metformin use causes that vitamin B12 deficiency, right? So low levels of B12, everybody who has diabetes will complain of fatigue, numbness, and now what you're doing is you're getting into a cycle where you're having medications and not taking care of your lifestyle properly. You're basically calling for another problem, that is diabetes and CVD, right? So this is something that we completely want to stop and help you understand that what can be done in such situations. So identifying the root cause is crucial, right, in treating the problem correctly. Once you identify that why and what is causing diabetes, you probably will have better control in terms of how to solve it, right? Diabetes is a multifactorial disease, right? So there can be several factors that can contribute towards the manifestation of diabetes. It can either be your insulin secretion and sensitivity, right? Whether you're secreting sufficient amount of insulin, or whether you're sensitizing insulin properly or not, right? So insulin is a hormone that helps glucose enter your cell, hence lowering the blood glucose levels, right? Which is basically helping you with management of diabetes. So if you have sufficient insulin levels, if you can sensitize the insulin or not is something that can be a proper probable root cause in terms of manifestation of diabetes. Another one is carbohydrate metabolism. Carbohydrate is nothing but carbohydrate eventually converts into glucose, and then high levels of glucose can persistent high levels of glucose can cause diabetes, right? So if you're able to digest carbohydrates well or not is something that you understand through the DNA report. Lipid metabolism, fat, right? So if you're able to digest fat, or if you have a tendency to store fat is something that you'll understand through the DNA report again. Oxidative stress, as we know that stress is something that causes a lot of diseases, right? Stress is one reason why we are seeing a rise in non-communicable diseases. Oxidative stress is basically internal stress of the body, and that is what also is understood through a DNA report, whether you are prone to high levels of stress in the body or not, right? And then the last one is your vitamin D and calcium metabolism, right? So if you have problem with your vitamin D absorption, what should be done exactly is something that you'll also understand through the your DNA report, right? So summarizing it, that diabetes is a multifactorial disease. You really have to understand that what is causing the problem here, and then fix it. Okay. Now, let's understand how we can help you in terms of these three things. How do you decode what type of diabetes you have? What is the root cause of your diabetes? How do you fix it? And how do you thrive with it, right? With nutrigenomics, of course. Insulin secretion and sensitivity. As we've already discussed that what insulin secretion and sensitivity means, understand that, if you see a bad here, that means you have poor insulin sensitivity. Impaired insulin metabolism really, and there is inflammatory pathways that contribute towards diabetes risk, right? So your insulin is not functioning properly. There is a problem with your inflammatory markers, as we've already spoken about that inflammation is something which is really one of the major reasons why somebody can manifest any non-communicable disease. Understand that if you have this sensitivity, if you're not sensitizing insulin properly, you are at a risk for development of diabetes. What is the fix? The fix is very simple. You just have to go on an anti-inflammatory diet and insulin sensitizing foods, right? So you probably eat a lot of berries. You ensure that you're having green tea, which is helping you sensitize insulin better. This is the only fix that you need to ensure, right? Once that is done, for at least 3 to 6 months, you will see that you're ensuring that you're exercising as well. You will see that your optimal HbA1c levels have been achieved, right? Another root cause is your carbohydrate metabolism. What does that mean? As I told you, that carbohydrate is eventually converted into glucose, and then you know that is something that is used as energy. If it is higher in your blood, you have higher blood glucose levels, persistent blood glucose levels. If they're high, you have diabetes, right? So impaired glucose metabolism contributes towards diabetes risk. That means anybody who has poor carbohydrate, when they consume normal amount of carbohydrates also, they see a extreme sugar spike. In such cases, you have to manage your carbohydrate intake. So you have to limit your high carbs food, focus on complex carbohydrates, ensure that with your meals you're having sufficient fiber, which is going to help you manage your HbA1c levels. Lipid profile, right? So lipid, again, impaired lipid metabolism causes insulin resistance, right? So it is going to help develop insulin resistance if you do not have a proper lipid metabolism. Insulin resistance is again your body not being able to sensitize insulin and identify that as there is insulin in the body, right? If that is there, your glucose doesn't enter cell health, manifesting the diabetes. What is the simple fix here is basically ensuring that first you get a DNA test and identify that you have these markers as poor, and then you start ensuring that you have reduced the intake of saturated fats and opt for omega 3. Once you do that, again, you see your HbA1c levels coming back to normal. Talking about oxidative stress, as we spoke about this, that this is the internal stress of the body. If you have oxidative stress persistently in the body, it leads to faster aging. Again, it contributes towards inflammation, right? So inflammation, if you have inflammation in the body, it is going to cause multiple non-communicable diseases. That is something that we really need to fix, right? Oxidative stress, if you have poor, it also leads to diabetic complications like diabetic foot, right? So if you get an injury in your foot, healing is something that doesn't happen properly, right? That is again because of oxidative stress, right? What is the fix? You go on an antioxidant rich diet, and again, once you do that, one simple change, your HbA1c levels start coming back to normal, right? Vitamin D. Now, vitamin D and calcium, both of them ensure that insulin secretion and glucose metabolism both are working really well, right? So it's like a checkpoint, right? So it is taking care of your insulin secretion levels, how much your insulin is being secreted, whether it is being sensitized properly or not. If your glucose metabolism is functioning properly or not is something that your vitamin D and calcium metabolism really takes care of, right? So it's preventing diabetes. It also helps with the management of diabetes. Vitamin D is very, very crucial. Again, if you're somebody who's prone to having vitamin D deficiency, as you can identify with your DNA report, ensure that the supplementation for vitamin D and calcium is always there, right? So no supplement for more than 3 months. But again, cyclic supplementation is something that would be recommended for you. Once that is done, your vitamin D levels come into the optimal range. You see your HbA1c levels getting much better, right? So this isn't just about diabetes, it applies to all non-communicable diseases, right? A problem well stated is a problem half solved, right? That is why you have to ensure that you correctly identify the root cause, understand where the problem is coming from, and then start prescribing any sort of intervention, right? Just ensure that you're in great company, and I would like to invite Alia now to actually explain you the offer that we have for you today.
Thank you, Tavleen, so much for this, extremely informative bit of, insight. I myself have family members who are suffering from diabetes, and half of it I did not know. I did not know about the personalized range. I did not know about how a genetic testing can actually help, enhance the concept of knowing what are the triggers in my environment and what is the wrong route we are taking currently to manage or let's say reverse diabetes. So I think, yeah, I have had a few eureka moments myself. Now that we have explored how deeply personalized information a DNA test can give, I would like to introduce you all to a program which is designed to support that very philosophy. Health Pro basically is our star product, is our hero product, and it is an expert backed DNA based, blood biomarker based program that helps you identify the hidden imbalances, deficiencies, and inflammation markers that often go unnoticed in the routine checkup or the routine care, which I think Taveen has talked about a lot. The program Health Pro, it's not a one size fit all diet plan. It's tailored precision care backed by the lab reports, by your DNA insights that we get, personalized nutrition which follows, and a one on one clinical guidance, and obviously the real time tracking that happens along with it. So, I would like to mention that whether you are looking to manage your weight or reverse any signs of chronic issues like diabetes, hypertension, thyroid for that matter, um, or simply just feel more in control, Health Pro gives you the roadmap for that. And because you are here with us today, and as a part of this webinar or a viewer of the Health Unlock show, we have a very special thank you for you. So you can use the coupon code DNA Live for an exclusive 10% off on our Health Pro purchase, wherever you make the purchase from. If you want to know more about the program Health Pro, you can head over to our official website, which is unlock.fit, or you can also download our app, which is available both on Android as well as App Store. And you can explore more about the program Health Pro, and we have few other programs also, which you can, if you want, you can check it out. Yeah. Uh, Next slide, please, Tabli. Now moving on from explaining about the program, I would sincerely hope that this session was meaningful to you and you had a good takeaway, something to think upon, and if this session gave you something to think about or better yet act on, we'd love to keep the conversation going, like I've mentioned in the last webinar as well. I have meant there's a QR code mentioned on the screen that is for our WhatsApp community. So I'd request you all to scan the QR code on your screen to join our WhatsApp community, where we share more health tips, more tips about how DNA affects your daily life and how you can leverage the information of your DNA to make your everyday life more easier and sustainable longevity could be adopted. We share early access to new programs. We share exclusive invites to our future events like this, because you very much be knowing that under the umbrella of the Health Unlock show, we do webinars and podcasts as well. So very relevant and fresh content will be coming out to you, and you'll get early access because you'll be a part of the community. This community is a space to learn, to ask, to grow, and believe me, there's no spam, there's just support. We only let you know about insights. So yeah, I mean, there's no fear. Just please be a part of our community and let's help each other out in this long journey of sustainable health that we are all looking at. um, yeah, I mean, whether you're curious, committed, just starting out, you'll find real people on this same journey. And we also have experts. We have Tavleen and we have other nutritionist experts in the group as well, who will be more than happy to take your questions there as well. And I think now, like without further ado, I'd jump to our Q&A section, where we'd like to all of you to please insert your questions on the screen, and we'll come to the reach out section next time. Tavleen, just move on to the Q&A part, please. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I see one question here, that how can vitamin D deficiency increase my risk for diabetes? Vitamin D, as we spoke about, that vitamin D and calcium metabolism really helps you manage your insulin metabolism along with your glucose metabolism as well, right? So both of these two major metabolism that play a role in your diabetes, what vitamin D helps you manage and regulate, right? So vitamin D is like a checkpoint for your insulin and your glucose metabolism to be working absolutely fine, right? So please ensure that your vitamin D levels are absolutely taken care of and are in your optimal ranges, right? I hope that answer your question. Another question that we have is basically, since physical activity plays a key role in regulating blood sugar, can DNA analysis help identify which type of exercise is most efficient for individuals? Absolutely, right? So the DNA test that we do will help you understand that whether you are a endurance based, work person, or you are a strength based person, right? So basically, whether you will be performing really well in terms of endurance based activities or in strength based activities, right? Since physical activity is something which is absolutely very very important in terms of regulating your blood glucose levels, our DNA report will help you understand the type of exercise that you should be doing, the amount of exercise that you should be doing, and probably make a schedule out of it. I hope that answers your question again. The next question is, if my family has diabetes, will I definitely get it too? No, not necessarily. If you have a risk of diabetes in your family, that means some genetic component might be there. But again, understand that genes, though the gun and environment pulls the trigger, it is always the environment that will initiate the manifestation of diabetes, right? So just ensure that your lifestyle is something which is completely in check, and you take care of your activity, physical activity levels, to ensure that you're eating healthy and you have proper amount of sleep as well, right? So peace, plate, and pace is something that you really have to take care of. If you're taking care of all of these lifestyle parameters, you will you are less likely to develop diabetes, right? Another question is, does DNA testing help with gestational diabetes risk prediction as well? Our report doesn't, right? Again, it is a lifestyle based disease, right? So, and during pregnancy, you see these fluctuations happening. Gestational diabetes, there's a possibility that might not continue and transform into type 2 diabetes, but our DNA report doesn't help you identify the risk towards gestational diabetes. In some context, when you are prone to developing vitamin D deficiency, or your insulin metabolism is impaired, and when you already had a history in terms of insulin resistance, whether you had PCOD, PCOS, we can in general with biomarkers identify the risk for developing the diabetes during pregnancy. But through DNA report, we cannot comment on whether you can probably have gestational diabetes or not. I think that answers the questions. Do we have any other questions? Okay. Can you eat jaggery if you have diabetes? Jaggery does has its own benefits, right? As compared to you having normal white sugar, jaggery is one alternative that we ask you to, really go for. But again, the quantity and the moderation is something which is very, very important. Please ensure that you talk to your nutritionist before you make certain changes, right? The another question is, can DNA testing accurately predict who will develop diabetes in later life? Again, as I said, that DNA testing helps you understand the flaw in terms of your DNA, right? So systemic flaw in terms of your body, how your body is functioning, is what we can completely understand. But if you will trigger it, or if you will manifest diabetes for sure or not, is something that we cannot actually tell you, right? Because again, 70% is your genetics, 30% is your lifestyle. If you take care of your lifestyle really really well, you will be able to manage it properly, right? So again, prediction risk prediction is definitely there, and it is accurate because there are mutations in your genes. But will you develop it or not is completely in your hand, right? I was detected pre-diabetic in my last screening that I took some 6 months back. What should be my immediate steps to help go back to a safer range? Again, amazing. Pre-diabetes, is a time where your body is not developing the memory of you being diabetic, right? So this one frame where you can easily go back to the normal range, and it won't affect you so much, right? So if that is the case, you should ensure that first of all, you start your physical activity. Secondly, consider getting a DNA test done, because you'll understand that what is the reason, why are you developing pre-diabetic, or why are you getting into the zone of pre-diabetes, right? Understanding the root cause will help you, again pave understand the path, that what path you should actually go on. And once you do that, you will probably get back to your normal ranges, right? So if you have poor carbohydrate metabolism, if you have poor insulin sensitivity, something that you'll understand. In terms of nutrition, just ensure that you're having fiber rich meals, you're starting to have insulin sensitizing foods like green tea. That is something that you can initially start, but I would definitely recommend getting a DNA test done, not wasting more time in order to go with the trial and error method, right? So just please ensure that you do that.
Okay. We have a question from Mr. Dharam Singh, and he mentions that क्या मधुमेह से पीड़ित व्यक्ति अपनी जीवन शैली से पूर्णतः मुक्त हो सकता है, मधुमेह से मुक्ति मिल सकती है, which basically translates to during your lifetime if you have got diagnosed with diabetes, is it okay to, I mean, is it possible that you can completely remove diabetes out of your life, like you completely remove it, not manage but like get rid of it? Yeah,
So
completely.
reverse. हाँ, आप अपनी डायबिटीज, आई एम गोना आंसर दैट क्वेश्चन इन हिंदी फॉर द सेक ऑफ इट, राइट? सो आप अपनी डायबिटीज को रिवर्स कर सकते हो अगर आपको ये समझ में आ रहा है कि आपको डायबिटीज का रिस्क क्यों है। डेफिनेटली अगर आपकी डायबिटीज या फिर आपके ग्लूकोज के लेवल्स बहुत ज़्यादा है ब्लड में, तो इनिशियली आपको उसको मेडिसिन से, आपकी दवाइयों से मैनेज करना पड़ेगा। फिर उसके बाद धीरे धीरे आप जैसे जैसे लाइफस्टाइल चेंजेस लाते जाएंगे, आपको इवेंचुअली रियलाइज होगा कि आप अपनी डायबिटीज को ईजिली मैनेज कर सकते हो। अगर आपकी डायबिटीज या आपका HbA1c टेस्ट जो कराया जाता है वो बहुत ज़्यादा अबव द रेंज नहीं है, इट कैन बी रिवर्स्ड ईजिली। आप उसको ईजिली और जल्दी कम टाइम में रिवर्स कर सकते हैं। बट अगर आपके HbA1c लेवल्स जो है वो ज़्यादा ऊपर है, तो उसमें थोड़ा टाइम लग सकता है। बट कंसिडरिंग कि आपका किस टाइप का डायबिटीज़ है, क्यों डायबिटीज़ आ रहा है, आपकी फैमिली में किसी और को डायबिटीज़ है या नहीं, ये समझने के बाद इस पे और बेटर तरीके से बताया जा सकता है। आई मीन वी कैन आंसर दैट इन अ बेटर वे कंसिडरिंग द जेनेटिक हिस्ट्री। Okay. Then we have another
Uh,
question. Yeah.
धर्म सिंह जी, अगर आपका कोई और सवाल है तबलीन के आंसर के बाद, तो आप वापस से चैट बॉक्स में सवाल डाल सकते हैं। वो आगे का जवाब भी बता पाएगी उसके बेसिस पे। जी।
Okay. So then we have another question, that what is the difference between a blood test and a DNA test? Blood test आपका current status, आप आज आपके साथ क्या हो रहा है, आपकी बॉडी में अभी का क्या situation है, is what a blood test will help you understand. Your DNA test आप वंस इन अ लाइफ टाइम टेस्ट होता है, ये टेस्ट एक ही बार कराना होता है। और जब आप ये टेस्ट कराते हो, ये आपके सिस्टमिक फ्लॉ के बारे में बात करता है, मतलब आपकी बॉडी एज सिस्टम कैसे काम कर रही है उसको अंडरस्टैंड करने में हेल्प करता है। वर्सेज योर ब्लड टेस्ट इज बेसिकली once a snapshot. Suppose you clicked a picture, so right now what is happening in your body, what is the current status, is understood through a blood test system, and what can you potentially be at risk at is something that the DNA test helps you understand. Blood test has to be repeated multiple times. A DNA test doesn't change, it's once in a lifetime test.
धर्म सिंह जी ने लिखा है, जी कृपया एक नोट उपलब्ध करवा सकते हैं। आई थिंक तवलीन उनको एक छोटी सी समरी वैसा कुछ चाहिए। धर्म सिंह जी, मेरा एक सवाल है छोटा सा आपसे, क्या आप हमारी कम्युनिटी का हिस्सा हैं, जो व्हाट्सएप कम्युनिटी है? अगर आप हमारी कम्युनिटी का हिस्सा हैं तो हम इस वेबिनार के बाद वहाँ पे एक छोटा सा समरी नोट डालेंगे और आपका जो सवाल है उसके अनुसार एक समरी बना के भी डाल देंगे। तो आप वहाँ से कम्युनिटी हमारी ज्वाइन कर लें, वहाँ से आपको ये इन्फॉर्मेशन मिल जाएगी। तबलीन, आप 2 स्लाइड पीछे जाके क्यूआर कोड अगर फ्लैश करें कम्युनिटी का प्लीज़, थैंक्स। जी, तो धर्म सिंह जी, आप ये जो क्यूआर कोड है ना, इसको अपने कैमरे से स्कैन करेंगे तो आप एक व्हाट्सएप कम्युनिटी का हिस्सा बन जाएंगे, जो हमारी कम्युनिटी है अनलॉक.फिट की। वहाँ पे आपको ये नोट अवेलेबल हो जाएगा वेबिनार खत्म होने के बाद। शुक्रिया।
Ali, I think I'm going to display this screen here itself so that anybody who would want to come and join the community, they can scan the QR code. Okay. Next question is that can you suggest some alternatives to white sugar? Right. Of course, you have your dates, you have stevia, and then you have coconut sugar. Then you can also go for raw honey. These are certain alternatives that we would recommend. Okay. Um, Thank you. I think next question is with by Ankur Mishra. It says that can type 1 diabetes be reversed? Actually, no, right? Type 1 diabetes can only be managed. टाइप 1 डायबिटीज एक ऑटोइम्यून कंडीशन होता है जो बचपन से ही हो जाता है, तो टाइप 1 डायबिटीज का रिवर्सल अभी पॉसिबल नहीं है, बट इट कैन बी मैनेज रियली रियली वेल। आप अपने ब्लड ग्लूकोज लेवल्स को इजीली मैनेज कर सकते हो, which we can help with. So if want to understand कि आप कैसे कर सकते हो, if you are a type 1 diabetic, please to get a DNA test done, identify कि actually ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है, what other factors can put you at further risk, and we'll be able to help you with that. Yeah. Okay. Then we have what other complication diabetes leads to. Okay, then you have neuropathy, you have nephropathy. It can impact your eyes, it can impact your kidney, it can impact your healing processes in the body. So people who have diabetic foot, अगर उनके पैर में कोई injury हो जाती है, diabetic foots do not heal, right? So suppose you got injured, आपको कुछ कट लगा पैर में, right? And then you as a normal person would heal it in like more than like within a week you'll see that the wound is healed. But for people who have diabetic foots, they do not heal that wound, right? Up 2 months, 3 months, most of the people who have diabetic foot have to get an amputation done. That means aapko unka, you have to take out their toe, exactly, right? So diabetic foot is something which is a major problem, right? And this is what complication of diabetes can lead to, right? So that is not a good idea to have high blood glucose levels ever, right? So it really can impact your kidneys, it can impact your heart, it can impact your eyes, right? So please ensure that your blood glucose levels are completely monitored and maintained in the normal ranges.
Tavleen, I had, before we get any more question, I actually had one myth busting that I wanted to check with an expert. In this age of tech and social media, we are fed so much of information online, right? We can continue scrolling these pages. We follow these pages to, get more details. There was one such page where one expert was talking about consuming something before every meal, helping reduce the level of sugar spike. And wanted to check it with you whether it's valid or not. So my parents, both of them, unfortunately have type 2 diabetes. So if it's effective, I would love to do it for them. So the suggestion was to have simple plain vinegar, which is white vinegar, simple plain white vinegar in half a glass of water, and drinking it like 10-15 minutes prior to consuming your meal, which obviously an Indian meal consumes carbs, more
Mhm.
carbs than any sort of protein or veggies. And my parents, like, they are a little rigid in terms of changing their habit at this age also. So is it something that actually works, or it is just a hoax that I saw online?
No, so apple cider vinegar or vinegar does help, right? But again, it is not treating your problem. You're just managing it, right? So your symptomatic management is something that is observed. But again, if you really want to ensure that the levels are not spiking so much, you just get a DNA test done and understand that what is the root cause. There are people who wouldn't want to change their eating habits, which is absolutely fine. Because understand, if I tell you that you have to completely change the life that you've been living for 40-45 years, that is something which is not possible, right? That is where a DNA test really helps. You just have to understand, okay, these are the 3 pointers that you need to take care of. कार्बोहाइड्रेट खाना है बट कॉम्प्लेक्स कार्बोहाइड्रेट खाना है, राइट? इंसुलिन इम्पेयरमेंट के साथ you just have to introduce green tea, and I'm sure that everybody can do that. But again, saying that your apple cider vinegars or vinegars do really help, right? And but those are just symptomatic controls, and for some population it might not really work as well and cause acidity, right? So for some it does, for some it doesn't, right? Okay.
All right,
I
thank you.
think
Yeah, that does help.
we have another question, that what are the early signs of diabetes? Okay, perfect. Early signs of diabetes, most of the time diabetes are basically is when you start to experience insulin resistance. So whenever आप जब खाना खा रहे हो, खाना खाने के बाद you just are craving for sweets. The moment you're craving for sweets, it makes your body realize, especially after your meal, is when your glucose is not being utilized properly, right? So एकदम से खाना खाने के बाद शुगर की क्रेविंग होना, you're peeing frequently, आप बहुत ज़्यादा you're going to the loo again and again, you're extremely thirsty to a level that your the throat is completely dry. That is again one of the physical cues that help you identify that you're getting into the diabetic range. And again, these are the physical cues. Apart from that, getting a blood test done will really help. आप अपना blood test कराओगे, fasting, postprandial and HbA1c levels will help you understand that whether you are getting into diabetes or not. Okay, Alia, we have another.
Yes, we have another message from Mr. धर्म सिंह. वो कह रहे हैं, मैं इस सोसाइटी को हर्ष के साथ सूचित करना चाहूँगा कि मेरी बेटी डायबिटीज़ एजुकेटर के तौर पर कार्य करता है. क्या आपकी इस मुहिम में मदद कर सकती है और कैसे, ताकि अधिक से अधिक लोगों की मदद की जा सके. सो बेसिकली धर्म सिंह जी की बेटी जो है वो डायबिटिक एजुकेटर की तरह काम करती हैं, और वो जानना चाह रहे हैं कि वो हमारी हेल्प कर सकती हैं हमारे वेंचर में कि नहीं. तो
Absolutely. Yeah, I think कि first of all, because we need people who advocate for diabetes. आप चाहते हैं कि आप बात करें डायबिटीज के बारे में. अगर आपकी बेटी ऑलरेडी डायबिटीज एजुकेटर है, ये एक एडिशनल इन्फॉर्मेशन है उनके लिए कि ऐसे भी डायबिटीज मैनेज करा जाता है, और इससे ये दिस इज द बेस्ट वे. ये एकदम सही तरीका है और मोस्ट साइंटिफिक तरीका है डायबिटीज को मैनेज करने का. सो आप जस्ट प्लीज आप उन्हें बोले कि हमारी कम्युनिटी को ज्वाइन करें, एंड वी कैन कनेक्ट एंड सी हाउ वी कैन वर्क टुगेदर.
जी.
Okay, so we have another question which says that how effective intermittent fasting is to manage diabetes. Some people do show great results in terms of intermittent fasting, but some do not. Again, आपको आपकी body का potential realize करना. You have to understand कि what is causing diabetes for you, and only then you'll understand whether a certain thing is effective for you or not. Personalization is the key. But saying that intermittent fasting does help some people, but if it is going to work for you or not is something that we cannot comment without a DNA report. um, Another question is that how is gut health connected with diabetes and hypertension? Okay, amazing. आपने मेरी पूरी presentation में सुना होगा that I have been constantly talking about inflammation, right? So your initial source of inflammation, your initial initiation of the inflammation that happens is at your gut, right? If you do not have proper gut, you see gut dysbiosis happening, you see toxins getting into the body, which leads to inflammation, which leads to the manifestation of any type of non-communicable disease, beating it. Either it can be diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, or anything else, right? So your gut health is something which is very, very important, because your gut health helps you manage your inflammation, right? So if you have good gut health, you will have lesser level of inflammation in the body. Also, the GLP-1 hormone, which helps you with your insulin, आपके insulin production में, आपके insulin sensation में help करता है, glucose में help करता है, metabolism में. GLP-1 hormone is also made in a healthy gut, right? So if you do not have a healthy gut, आपका GLP-1 hormone nahi banta hai, which is going to again cause problems with your insulin and carbohydrate metabolism. But if you have a healthy gut, your GLP-1 hormones is something which is absolutely produced and maintained in the optimal levels. Perfect. Okay, we have another question. What roles do hormone play in blood sugar control, especially during menopause or premenopause? Right. So, menopausal and premenopausal, again, your estrogen is something that plays a role, right, which is your female hormone, right. Apart from that, your insulin resistance, the risk towards insulin resistance during menopause or premenopausal women increases. Just how insulin resistance risk in gestational diabetes also increases, right. Whenever you're hitting menopause, this is another phase of your life where one organ, its functionality is completely going off, right. So your ovaries functionalities is something which is completely going off. There will be hormonal disturbances which can also manifest as diabetes, right. So if you see estrogen imbalance, you can also understand that there can be insulin resistance. You have to really keep a check. Go for fasting insulin tests. Go for your regular blood tests in order to ensure if you have any hormonal imbalances coming up. Again, how do you identify what are the physical cues? Is you craving for sugar, or you having acne around your jaw, is something that helps you understand whether you have insulin resistance or not. Black, round around your neck, or your blackness on your knees or underarms is something that also helps you identify whether you have insulin resistance. Or skin tags, right. Skin tags, if you see in terms of when you are especially going through a menopause, or if you're a perimenopausal woman, if you see them developing, you have to ensure that you get tested for insulin resistance. Okay. Does a genetic tendency for slow metabolism or other gut related issues increase the risk for developing type 2 diabetes? Of course it does, right? So if you have a poor metabolism for certain micronutrients, and or your carbohydrate metabolism, it can really impact, right? So you have to ensure that you get that genetic test done, understand if you have certain mutations, and really manage them through right interventions, right? So it does affect. Does genetic testing provide insights that can guide personalized carbohydrate management in individuals with or at risk for diabetes? 100%. The moment you understand how metabolizing carbohydrates, whether you're a poor metabolizer, whether you're a good metabolizer, once you have that understanding, knowledge is power. You can really understand what type of carbohydrate you should consume, what should be the frequency of consumption of those carbohydrates. That is something which can be easily taken care of, right. So personalization can really happen once you get your DNA test done, right. Another question is, how can the family member of a patient dealing with diabetes help the diabetic person? I would urge you to not waste time, understand what exactly is the root cause, get a DNA test done. That is the first step. Once you understand that, you DNA test really helps you understand what type of medication also will suit the body, right, because you completely understand what type of diabetes you have, right. So if you understand that, first step is to get a DNA test done, completely identify why the person is having diabetes or what has manifested the diabetes. Second step is to ensure that the lifestyle is something that is taken care of, because type 2 diabetes is said to be a lifestyle disease, right. So if you take care of the lifestyle, you can manage it and probably move towards the direction of reversal of it, right. So that is something that you should really take care of. If someone has diabetes, does eating fruit is harm? Okay, so if you have diabetes, can you eat fruits or not, is one of the major questions that you would always see, right. Eating fruits, in nominal quantities, is something which is absolutely okay. Understand, if you do not have problem with your carbohydrate metabolism, you do not need to lower the intake of your food which are rich in have a higher glycemic index, is something that needs to be managed. Please talk to your nutritionist in order to understand that what fruits and what fruits you cannot eat. But harmful, no, absolutely not. You can completely have portion control in terms of the fruits that you're eating. You can enjoy all the fruits that are available. No, fruits do not they're not harmful. They have good amount of antioxidants. In fact, berries is what I would recommend for somebody who has poor oxidative stress, and that is one of the reasons why they are manifesting diabetes. They have amazing antioxidant abilities, and hence will help you manage diabetes rather than increasing your blood glucose levels.
Since we're talking about fruits, Tavleen, I've heard that the fruit jamun, which is like locally available and is a very lovely seasonal fruit, is very helpful in diabetes. And some people do talk about eating the leaves of jamun tree as well. I'm so sorry, I'm coming back with a lot of myths because I am in conversation with my parents, and that age group usually finds these kind of nuskhas and myths
Mhm.
online,
Yeah,
right? And then they come back to us and check whether this is correct or not. So I've had my mother come to me and ask me whether eating a jamun leaf, like fresh leaf, is that
mhm.
okay? A jamun fruit she should not consume because it might have sugar, because she's trying to avoid a lot of fruit like mangoes
Mhm.
and lychees, which are very lovely tropical
Rich
fruits
in
that we can
sugars, yeah,
eat. Yeah. So Aniket's question helped me, and I couldn't keep calm, and I had to ask this. So
absolutely.
maybe like a summer fruit guide to our people who are suffering from diabetes would be really helpful from your end. Yeah.
See, jamun again is very good in antioxidants. Your mango is rich in vitamin A, right? So all of these fruits, they're very rich in micronutrients, which are needed, right? If you're having them in portion control, there's no problem at all, right? So jamun, again, berries, as I mentioned, right? You have to have antioxidant rich foods. Now, what really happens is that, probably your mother would see great impact in terms of having this jamun, but your father wouldn't, right? Why is that? Because they're genetically different, right? She might be suffering from oxidative stress, and that is what is helping her, but he might be suffering from carbohydrate metabolism that is not functioning properly, right? So this might spike levels for him but not her, right? So that is why you have to really understand that what is causing diabetes, and post that interventions only make sense.
Okay. Thank you. All right. I think we have no more questions coming in. Yeah, I mean, like the comment says, thank you all for joining in and engaging with us, with your important questions. Thank you so much, Tavleen, for taking out, time to conduct this session and help us with these, insights. I'm 100% sure that whoever is having a person who's diabetic around them or themselves are suffering from this issue, um, they'll be more than happy, and I hope they were able to take have some takeaways through it. We do have a question. I think that's the last one of the series. You
Yeah.
can take that first. Yeah.
So, if diabetes exists in someone's family history, how early in the life the person should start taking care of their lifestyle, and in what ways, right? So, absolutely, if you have somebody who is diabetic in your family, right? If you have a family history, especially, if it is not skipping generations. So, if your grandmother had it, your mother had it, and you, in fact, are at a risk, right? So, if it is not skipping generations, the risk is much much higher, right? Just ensure that you start with the dna test can be done as early as you're born, right? So once you do that, you have susceptible genes which can actually trigger the risk for diabetes. Once that is taken care of, you can probably go ahead with blood tests can be done from an age of mid teenage get a blood test done, and then post 30 I recommend getting a blood test done annually, right? And ensuring like answering your question in terms of how to take care of their lifestyle, three p's again: pace, peace, and plate. You have to ensure that you're having workouts, that is your pace, right? You have your peace, that means you're sleeping properly, there's no stress. Extreme stress is something that you have to completely avoid. Oxidative stress, whether it is internal or external, is something that you need to take care of. And then you also take care of your plate, the amount of carbohydrates that you're eating, the fiber that you're taking care of, right? What type of fiber you should be consuming, if you're having sufficient proteins or not, is something that you really need to have a look at, right? Vitamin D through your plate, right? So you have to ensure that you have vitamin D rich foods, you have calcium rich foods, etc. is something that you really need to take care of. Yeah. Okay. Nowadays, there is a debate also that this diabetes limit was a scam. So, what is the exact diabetes limit to be qualified as that person is free diabetic or non-diabetic? Okay, amazing, right? So thank you for asking that question first, and understand that these limits were either set in order for precaution or helping you understand that you've manifested diabetes. WHO for us have they initially coined the term pre-diabetes because they wanted to ensure that you are alert in terms of saying that you're moving towards diabetes, right? So pre-diabetes is one area where you are completely safe. You can go back to your normal levels easily, right? Because the body is developing the memory that you have high blood glucose levels continuously. So They're not scam, but again, as I had shown in my slides, I'm just going to go back to that slide. You have to ensure that you have your own ranges, right? So that is something which is absolutely very important. As you can see here that the population that we considered is huge. The amount of population that we look at is huge, right? So your value is something which can be easily missed out here, right? So whether you're diabetic, pre-diabetic is something that can be completely missed out here. But if you have your own results, slight deviation in terms of your fasting levels or your pre postprandial glucose levels is something that can be easily identified, right? So these ranges are a broad good check, but not necessarily a good check in terms of identifying whether you are deviating from your normal or not. Yeah. um, that was an amazing question. That is why we need personalization. That is why you have to understand where do you set in, right? So there is another genetic condition where people maintain slightly high level of glucose, right? Usually it would consider people would consider them as pre-diabetic, but that's not true. Once you have that genetic information with you, you understand that you are naturally destined to maintain certain high levels of blood glucose levels, right? So you do not intervene there, you do not do anything, because that is your normal, right? So again, get a DNA test done, identify your own normal, and then only start with interventions, especially medications, because they have side effects which can cause or call for further problems. Do we have other
Thank you.
questions?
Yeah, thank you, Draco X Gaming, for asking that question. I think that was a fresh question, and we all needed to hear that. Um, yeah, I think we don't have any more questions coming in, and I'd like to conclude this webinar by thanking you all for joining us. Thanking Tableen again for her investing her valuable time for this. Uh, just final run-ups. The QR code is there on our screen. Highly recommending you all to scan the QR code, join our community, be a part of building something healthier and sustainable together. um, and we also have our reach out number. If you could go one slide back, Tabli, we have our support number, and there's another number we have mentioned. Yeah. So whoever is seeking a consultation with our expert, you can book a very free consultation option that is available on our website. You're more than welcome to join us. And for any other query related to the brand, related to this webinar, related to any personal problem that you are suffering right now, in terms of your health challenges or health goals that you want to achieve, feel free to drop a message. Feel free to give us a call on our support number. It's flashing right there on the screen. Yeah. And we'll make a wrap up of the questions that we have catered today, the summary of all the questions, like Mr. Dharam Singh also mentioned, and we'll be floating that on our community to make sure all of you have joined the community. Yeah. And before we leave, Tableen, we have one last question, follow up from Mr. Draco X Gaming, and if you will just take that. Yeah. Thanks.
There are diabetes reversal search programs also being run by the groups, while the DNA is which can't be changed. While lifestyle importance is known, how effective the reversal programs are. Okay, perfect. Right. So DNA cannot be changed. That's absolutely correct, right? But once you identify that this is your root cause, you start working on it. There is ample amount of knowledge which is available in terms of reversal. If you have this, you have to completely ensure that you follow this recommendation, right? So if you have oxidative stress which is poor, you have to have antioxidant rich diets, right? So my entire point being that you have to frame the problem really really well. Why How do you determine the success of a reversal program is first how much damage you've done, right? So if you have had extreme damage in terms of the your HbA1c levels, or if your blood glucose levels are extremely poor, again it would require medication apart from lifestyle changes. But if you are still in the pre-diabetic range, right, and if you belong to that range, what can really be done is you completely understand that what is causing the rise in blood glucose levels and fix it, right? So the again effectiveness of the reversal depends if you have been diagnosed properly with the root cause of your problem, right? So yes, and we have definitely seen a lot of success case stories with us, right? So once we have identified the exact root cause, we have seen people reverse diabetes within 3 to 6 months. Again, most of them were in their pre-diabetic ranges, and we've definitely seen and observed great success in terms of the reversals. I hope that answers your question again. Ali, I think we're done with the questions. Um,
Yeah. All right. I think I've said thanks twice, so I'll just once more wrap up in a summarized way. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll be waiting for all of you next Saturday. You know the drill. Every Saturday we push out some very, very helpful and valuable content targeting one specific, health challenge that you are facing, and to come up with really new exciting insights. We'll have Tableen back also in some of the other sessions. So please, look forward to all the notifications that goes out on our community pages, on our social media handles. Give us a follow, join our community, know more about what we are doing, and be a part of, building a healthier and sustainable world where people are very healthy and they are in control of their health, not because somebody else has given you a medication for it, but because you have identified what exactly is the need of your body, and contribute to the mission of making everybody healthy with unlock.fit. uh, Having said all of that, thank you so much for joining again. See you all next Saturday with another event. Yeah. Bye bye. Thank you.